This is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic. I have had a lot of people coming to me with questions concerning psychic gifts, spiritual gifts. What are they? How do you know you have them? How do you develop them? How do you integrate them into your life? And there are some who actually want to become a professional psychic or medium or tarot card reader. And it's very challenging to answer all these questions in detail. I do offer spiritual consultations if you need some one-on-one regarding those topics. Also, I teach a class called Earth Magic at deaduniversity.com. And Dead University is a fabulous school established by Alison Dubois. And there are classes in mediumship, astrology, healing, and then I teach Earth Magic, which actually covers almost all of the other subjects except astronomy and astrology, which is something I just don't know a lot about. But going back to the idea of spiritual gifts, I think everybody has certain kinds of gifts that we're born with. It's part of being human. And they served us well in earlier times. But the way that society is structured now, sometimes those have been suppressed and actually repressed. And I do think as you turn towards the spiritual path and you begin to open up your awareness and become sensitive to energy and the energy around you, many of you are finding you have innate gifts that are bubbling to the surface. Other people have been aware of having gifts since they were born, and many of us are born with particularly strong gifts. And I think there are certain gifts that maybe you're born with them or you're not, and those tend to run in families. They ran on both sides of my family, and so I was fortunate in growing up in a home that embraced spirituality. Although because we were fearful of going outside of our family group, it was limited. My knowledge was quite limited until I opened myself up and began exploring my spiritual path as well. So, spiritual gifts are something that you get the inkling that they're emerging in various ways. There are physical sensations. Sometimes it's a forethought, a knowledge that comes to your mind and you see it happen. Some people begin to experience their gift through dreams. There's so many ways that spirit begins to open us to the possibilities and to our potential. These gifts can be cultivated, but I find many people who want to cultivate a specific gift or a specific aspect of that gift, while the rest of their life isn't holistically involved with the spiritual energy around them. And those are the people who very quickly are going to get frustrated, because spiritual gifts are not separate in and of their own, in my experience. They're part of traveling this whole spiritual path. They become integrated into your daily life. And as you progress in understanding how the energy around you works, learning how to control your focus and concentration and your will, as you learn how to quiet some of the world around you, so that you can open up to what's inside and really learn to listen. That's the time that your gifts can begin to develop. And really, that's the only way the gifts are useful. We all know psychics and people who say they're psychic. And I get a lot of people who come to me wanting to know very particular questions out of the blue, or to test me. Because I'm a tarot card reader, aren't I psychic? Or, what was their great-grandmother's middle name? What's going to be the first and last name of their future husband? When the reading hasn't even maybe indicated that their love life or their romantic life is headed towards any kind of ultimate union. It's really interesting. So taking those things out of context is totally misunderstanding what a psychic gift is, how it works, and what it allows you to do. Integrating it into your life helps you to understand this is just another sense, like seeing, smelling, hearing. And to some extent, it's taking those gifts deeper so that maybe now we're hearing spirit. We're smelling something that's a message to us from spirit. But they're senses. They're there to give us information to use and to implement and to help us focus on our life intentions, our life goals, and in making the world better for ourselves and the people we love. They're not parlor tricks. They're not things to cultivate simply for ego. There are many people who start developing a spiritual gift, and 3 months later, they want to go into business and set themselves up. Maybe you do have a psychic gift. What do you have to really offer people with that? What have you learned from incorporating that into your life? 3 months, in my opinion, is not going to be enough time to make you open and compassionate and wise enough to deal with the people who are going to come and trust you for help. I mean, there may be exceptional cases. I'm just saying what my experience has been. So if you start working on these spiritual gifts, you have to have a certain amount of patience. You have to be receptive. This isn't something that you can drive. You can maybe do spells to indicate your openness. Yes, it's excellent to send messages out saying that you're open for that. There are ways by spending quiet time, grounding yourself in nature, that makes you more open to these gifts. But again, that's establishing a place of receptivity for these gifts. And then they arise. And you learn to work with them and you respect them. I often recommend that people begin working with pendulums to exercise those psychic muscles. And it takes patience because part of that is keeping a journal and documenting. What did the pendulum say to you? How did it make you feel? What was your interpretation? And then it takes time for things to unfold and then for you to go back and say, well, maybe this meant this. Maybe I misunderstood that. And you begin working with it. It takes time and patience, and you have to be open and receptive to advice that you receive. If you ask for my advice and your input, and I gently suggest that perhaps you delve a little deeper into the meaning of those tarot cards, because they also have a history and they have an esoteric meaning that maybe you've missed. It's a little nuanced. And you come back at me with an angry comment that's extremely defensive. I'm not going to second guess myself or my cards for anybody. Why did you come to me and ask for input? That's not a good way to grow, and it's not a good way to establish a mentorship. I can't answer a lot of questions. I receive a lot of long messages with questions. My time is limited for my own well-being and for my own spiritual growth in life. I do offer paid spiritual consultations, which compared to many people's prices are quite low for what it is that you get in exchange. And that's a fair exchange of energy. So if you're looking for some kind of mentorship or a one-on-one, please consider either signing up for a spiritual consultation or actually looking at deaduniversity.com and really looking at the opportunities that exist there. Because besides the classes, my class, for example, there's videos, a ton of handouts. Basically, it's a book of shadows. And there's a recess space where you can interact, read tarot on other people, interact with other people on the same path. And then there's a classroom space where you can ask questions. And all the professors often will offer input on those questions. The price is really a bargain when you consider what you're getting. But you're going to need, for any of these things, to understand your purpose. Realize it will need to be integrated into the fullness and the wholeness of your life. You're going to have to set some of that ego aside so that you're open to and receptive for advice. There's a lot involved. The old model where somebody mentored somebody for free, and it was like this old crone young person friendship, that's been sort of distorted. The apprentices actually worked under the witch and they helped her. They were part of her business in a sense. And they assisted her and they were like interns. It was like an internship and they learned as they assisted her. In today's world, that's not a possibility for most people in most situations. And so that's why we have classes and workshops. And that's why we have consultations, and there's a small cost associated because our time is valuable too, and it's a fair exchange of energy. I don't feel bad about doing that. It's my way of actually protecting myself from people maybe who aren't as sincere. And then the other thing is practice. Before you decide that you're called to start a business, practice with friends and family. Begin to see if they want to make a fair exchange for energy. That's how you'll know if a business will be successful. You have to be very seasoned and very called and very led if you want to turn your spiritual gifts into a business. It's not easy. You have to have a lot of marketing skills. You have to have technological skills, banking and accounting skills. And yes, the spiritual business includes all of those mundane things. Plus, there are people who are going to come to you with all kinds of questions, sometimes problems and situations. And you need the wisdom and the courage to help them as best you can and to refer them for help as best that you can. You have to become very skilled at managing your energy so that it doesn't get depleted. So there's a lot of aspects to having a spiritual business, and it's not easy, and it can be a little bit tiring sometimes. But if Spirit calls you, you will channel the energy. And Spirit will bring you the opportunities. Spirit will open the way for you when you are ready, and you will know it. So that's just a quick, given the subject, a quick summing up about working with spiritual gifts. They're another sense for you to explore. They don't make you better than anybody else. They don't make you more special than anybody else. Some of the people I know who are the most gifted have come forward and said, geez, in some ways, my life is more complicated and more challenging because I have these gifts. And they're very humble and compassionate towards others. And their ego is kept on the low side by the challenges these spiritual gifts bring them. So I want to encourage you, yes, to explore your spiritual gifts. There's something so precious. To not be open to them and to repress them can actually make people have anxiety and actually become physically ill. Sometimes these things are projected outward in ways that are not helpful. Let's just say it that way. So I want to wish you much joy and many blessings as you open up and explore your spiritual path. I wish you compassion and wisdom and patience. Many blessings. This is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic.